or anybody listening, if you are excited and eager to dip your feet in the world of jewelry making or whatever it is, crocheting or whatever, you don't have to justify that. It doesn't have to be monetized to be worth it. You can do it because you love it. Full stop.
Hello, I'm Tammy Hahnemann, a maker, digital content creator, someone who works in many different mediums with a true passion for helping others find their creative spark. I also really love to connect others who have something to share with those who want to learn. Welcome to Heart and Hands of a Maker, the creative journey. If you found us, chances are you're on a quest for creative inspiration. Maybe you're feeling stuck in an artistic rut, dreaming of turning your passion into a flourishing business, or maybe you're hoping to see your work in print or grow your online presence. Well, my friend, wherever you are on your creative journey, you're in the right place. Today, we're talking with Francesca Watson, a jewelry artist, jewelry instructor, and a working studio owner, hosting in-person and virtual workshops year-round from her Texas location. My girl, Francesca. We'll be discussing Francesca's creative journey, explore her business evolution, and hear what she's got coming up next. And boy, does she have stuff coming up. So it's time to grab your favorite beverage, settle into your creative space, and meet Francesca. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
Well, I am thrilled to have you here. We have known each other through the years. We've collaborated on things. We've had conversations, and
I was talking to my husband about this the other night, like 12 years ago or something. Like we've known each other from early days, right?
Early days, yeah.
My early days. You've been around forever, but my early days. I'm still a newbie here in the biz.
Oh, hardly. Well, then, if you are new, you jumped in with both feet and you got in deep really fast. So
I did. I make a joke. I got in like a lot of people did with beading. That was how I got started. We call that the gateway drug.
Yep.
And I know I'm not telling you anything you don't already know, Miss Beater person. There's just something about the color and they're just seductive, those little buggers. And I took a class with some girlfriends and just got bit really hard. And the next thing I knew, I had a studio in my house. And then I was doing wire wrapping because, I fell in love with stones. And then, how that goes. It's a slippery slope. One thing leads to another. And the next thing I knew, I owned a studio where I was teaching other people how to do this stuff.
Yeah. So. Oh my gosh. What an evolution. And I swore I would never use beads. I'm like, I do not want to work with those tiny little beads. Like, that's ridiculous. Yeah, right? Who would do that? And so I was
more who has the patience for that?
Right. And then I through my job, I had to work with them, and I was like, oh, they're so pretty. I must have every color.
You're right. And have you met, do you know my friend Kate Richburg? Of course you know my friend Kate Richburg, right? So she is like an enabler. So she's like, have you seen this loom? Let me send you a strand of these, Padres. Thanks. It's like, thanks now I'm addicted. Now I kid. But, the latest thing is now pearl knotting.
Oh, yeah. I know.
Holy crap.
Yeah. It's meditative and it's beautiful when it's finished.
And when it's done, when you're Kate Richburg, it's beautiful. When you're Francesca Watson, just learning, it's maybe less than beautiful. But anyway, just that all those things just start to, there's something about the tactile nature of it, maybe. Is that what it is, do you think? Something about, I don't know. Anyway, beads, yum.
Beads. I think for me, it's color. I really do think it's color. I can track my progress, and it's always been color that has pushed me to the next thing.
Mm-hmm. I can see that. Yeah. I think I like the idea of color very much, but in my own work, that isn't the thing I'm drawn to. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting. Yeah, that's interesting. I'll have to think about that. Maybe that's the attraction. Maybe it's both tactile and color.
Well, you said tactile, so that's probably it, and I just have to always be making something. I always have to have something in my hands. Are you like that?
I'm like that too. Yeah. I always have to be working on something, whether it's an idea, whether I'm sketching out the mechanics of something, right? Working out a design idea, how would I do that if I was going to make that thing? How would that come together?
Yeah.
Or crocheting. Crocheting is a massive addiction. Huge.
Okay.
Like seriously, in my living room, you have do you have a chair, the chair you always sit in your living room, right? And you have all the stuff next to you on all the things. One of the things that is always next to me is a big mason jar filled with crochet hooks, and underneath is a sort of a carpetbagger type bag that's got my current project in it. Always
Nice.
crochet.
So what are you working on right now?
I'm working on baby blanket that is not going well. I'm probably gonna have to take it apart. There, the young man who helped us with this, we did a massive studio rebuild last year, and the young man who works for the local builder that donated general contracting services he was invaluable to us, and he has a beautiful little daughter named Ava, and I'm making her baby blanket to say thank you, and I'm not doing a great job, so I probably have to redo it.
That's the worst when you have to pull it out, except if it's tactile and it's color and it's, therapeutic that you're sitting there making something, it almost doesn't matter.
It almost doesn't matter. Exactly.
No, except you would like to get it done before she's...
Except I'd like to, right, before she goes off to kindergarten. Please, she's something. I know you helped me 5 years ago.
And I really appreciated it. This is how
I really appreciated it. Here you go. There you go. Exactly. So glad to know I'm not alone. Sip of my coffee on that one.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so you started with beads and you went to wire. And I know you and I have a mutual admiration society with Connie Fox. She was one of
my gosh,
favorite icons in the wire world back in the day.
Have you ever met her?
Oh, many times. We were very good friends for a long time. She'd come out to Beadfest and
she's just the loveliest woman. Not working in metals anymore, sadly, but her work was so organic and evocative to me. I could just, she made these amazing bracelets where she had just burned through things, these raw organic. I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it. Her work was probably the first metal work that I saw that stopped me cold. And I remember vividly thinking, man, if I could ever do work like that, wow, wouldn't that be amazing? And I had the great good fortune of meeting her. She came and taught a retreat for us way back when we first got started. Just one of the loveliest, most encouraging, just so inspired by her.
Yeah, she's a lovely woman, and she contributed to the magazines a lot. So we had a long-standing relationship, and she was a Beadfest instructor. So, time and space come between, but yeah, just always loved spending time with her.
Yeah, she was terrific.
A true
100%.
Amazing human being. Yeah.
So generous. She's one of, there are instructors who are just generous. Like, it's not about them at all. It's really about the student and about you. And, she was 100% my first exposure to somebody who was absolutely in it for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was great. We could all be like that.
Yeah, the rest of us are selfish. The rest of us. Nope. It's about me. It's all about me.
Well, I would never say that about you ever.
It's I think probably truer than I would like to admit. I don't feel like I'm alone in that. I think we're all getting some itch scratched with what we do, right?
Sure. Yeah. Or else why are we doing it? I mean, I think, also knowing you and speaking for myself, like, we do this to help other people. And to me, that is very fulfilling. Like, that 100%. That is my itch, and that is what I like to make sure I'm 100% all the time. Like, I started this show. I started and stayed in publishing.
And congratulations on that, by the way. This is a big undertaking.
It is big. It is big. Thank you. Thank you for being such a big supporter. Thank you.
Oh, I'm thrilled. Thanks for asking me.
Thank you. It's my pleasure, and a true honor to have you here. And I think it's funny, the name of your program, which I somehow missed.
Oh my gosh, it makes me laugh out loud. So we started in 2000, I think it was 2019, might even have been 2018. We started a program here called The Heart of the Maker. And our idea was that, students who take a lot of project-based instruction, and we all, right, that's what we do. Beadfest, Bead and Button, you go to these shows, whatever, you're learning a project. And so the idea was, you know more than you think you do. Students know more than they think they do. If you unpack all those projects that you've taken, you know how to solder, you know how to sweat solder, you know how to construct a bezel, you know how can we help you unpack this toolbox you didn't even know you had and reassemble those things in a way that makes it your process, your inspiration, work that speaks to who you are, and not sort of regurgitating that project that you did last year, at this show you went to. So anyway, we started that in, I don't know, 2018 or 2019, Heart of the Maker. That's what we called it. I'm co-teaching it with my dear friend, Jessica Cote, AKA Rosie Revolver. And we had just decided, end of December, first part of January, we had just decided that we needed to launch a second, a second course of study called The Hands of the Maker, because we found that there were people who there were blanks in their foundational skill set that prevented them from getting the most out of the Heart of the Maker because they were too focused on the technical. So we had just made the decision that we were going to launch The Hands of the Maker. And you and I start talking, and I'm like, she's doing a podcast called The Heart and the Hands of the Maker. Well, free advertising, that's what that is.
I guess it goes both ways, but I don't understand how that works.
It totally does. It totally does. It goes both ways, and it's all good. It made me laugh.
Well, it makes me laugh, and I'm glad that we both did that inadvertently, and I was really inadvertent. And for me, it's similar, complementary, because it's about it's for me. This show is about helping people know you, helping them understand where you've been, where you're going, and what they can take from your experience to apply to themselves, and really get to to the heart and the hands of what it is you do and who you are, to help others along their path, because everybody's coming into this stream at a different place.
100%.
Yeah.
Right. And at the end of the day, isn't that what not to sort of dig too deeply into the philosophical right off the bat, but isn't that part of how we construct a legacy, right? How we feed into the lives. It's like a ripple, right? I'm feeding into the lives of others, and they're feeding into the lives of others. And it's like that old Breck commercial. And now I'm really dating myself. And they told two friends, and they told two friends.
And so on.
Right.
And so on.
At the end of the day, it's really just about feeding into one another's lives in ways that are productive and positive and uplifting and encouraging. And I really sort of feel like that's my mission in the world.
Yeah, me too. It is what
sister. Girl power.
And that is what fills my cup. And that's why I'm here, and that's why you're here. And so the fact that we named our programs the same thing is kind of funny.
I think it's funny. Yeah, I think it's funny. It means we're on the right track, I think.
We're on the right track.
Like-minded.
We're trying to do the same, accomplish a similar goal from a different direction.
Yep. Right. And you're also covering a lot more ground that we are 100% focused on investments. We're not talking to the crocheters or weavers or, mixed media people of the world. That's not our jam.
Yeah. Yeah. So. I think, and in my space, I feel everybody's welcome. I always say, like, everybody's welcome in my home. Everybody's welcome on the show, because everybody has something to share. And even though, I've met with several different people in different disciplines, it's very similar story. I
was going to say there's a lot of commonality, right?
A lot.
And I think this ties into one of the reasons I'm so passionate about this is that I believe deeply, like a core belief of mine, is that we are all created beings and we are all created to be creative. And I think, as a culture, we've become accustomed to thinking of creativity as an indulgence. It's a thing that we don't make time for. It's a thing that we sort of discount. It isn't as important as other things. And I think it's essential. I think that if you ignore that part of yourself, if you push that down, your life is poorer for it. Everything else in your life suffers if you're not giving voice to that creativity in some way. Now, I don't mean that everybody's going to go out and be a great artist, a painter or a sculptor, or that's not what I'm talking about. But I feel like the act of making, of doing something with your hands, of producing something concrete that is only yours, that has the mark of your hands on it, right? Literally the hands of the maker. That is a fundamental need. It's throughout millennia. You look at, the work of the hands of people living in caves, right? That creative impulse is I think, foundational and essential. And I think helping, for me anyway, helping primarily women of a certain age, right? It's my constituency is primarily women over 40. Their kids have left home. This is the first opportunity that they've had disposable income and a little time to do something for themselves. And hey, this might be cool. And to watch them tap into that piece of themselves, they light up, they overcome their fear of the torch. They do, holy crap, I made this thing I can wear. They're just, I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it. There is nothing like watching that light bulb go on for people. Nothing like it. So I just, and I think I said to you when we were sort of preparing for this, I said, if I'm an evangelist about anything, that's what I'm an evangelist about. That, you are creative. People say, I'm not creative. Yes, you are. Maybe it's gardening. Maybe it's baking bread. Maybe it's the soup you make for your family on every special occasion. Maybe it's the clothes you sew your kids or the quilt, whatever it is. Maybe it's the car engine you work on. These are all creative pursuits of one kind or another, and everybody's got something that scratches that itch for them. If I can help you uncover what that is, that's my reason for being on this planet. I believe that. Yep. So I'm passionate about it, and I'm I don't know, maybe to a fault. Nothing makes me more frustrated than the gatekeepers in the industry who behave as if that's not, you've got to have 35 years and you've got to have graduated from some program, and it's not legitimate unless you've ticked off all these boxes. I have zero patience for that. Zero patience for that way of thinking. Sorry, I'm going to get myself in trouble, Tammy. That's what's going to happen here.
Oh, wait, we're 15 minutes in. It's okay.
I'm going to get myself in trouble. But seriously, nothing gets my back up more, So, I have a student group. I have an online student group that started during COVID because we were all stuck alone in our homes, and it has snowballed into a really wonderful community. And I just feel so privileged to be shepherding these people through that part of their creative journey. But partly it came out because when COVID happened, I saw this huge uptick in beginners landing in Facebook groups, asking perfectly reasonable questions and getting the most hostile, aggressively unpleasant answers, contradictory answers from people, right? This person says, well, no, you can only do it this way. And this person says, well, no, you can only do it that way. And then it turns into a cat fight in the comments. And I'm thinking about this poor person sitting in a studio at home. How do they know what the right answer is? How do they sift through all of that, let alone the hostility, let alone being made to feel stupid for raising the question? How do they sort through to get to the nugget of information that's going to help move them forward in this thing that they want to do? And so I thought, well, I'm going to create a group that's going to talk about foundational stuff. Oh, okay. Hey. So this is weird. I should have figured out how to turn off that setting. So I
didn't even know how you can do that. Go you.
I'm on a Mac. I have to remember, I have to keep my Italian hands in my lap while I'm on this computer, because it makes, for those of you who are listening and not watching, my Mac turns hand gestures into effects emojis on my screen.
Yeah. I don't know how it works, because
anyway,
on a Mac too.
Anyway, not to belabor the point, I don't want to, no. I certainly do not, dismiss or denigrate the decades of work of people who've been doing this a long time, or people who graduated from a serious program. I don't dismiss that or diminish that at all. But there has to be a place for people who come to this later in their lives who are never going to graduate from a fine arts program. Mm-mm. They're never going to do a 5-year apprenticeship with a real bench jeweler. That's just never going to be part of their experience. So, how can we create a space for them that's a safe place where they can ask questions without being made to feel stupid, where they can be taught safe, appropriate skills and foundational techniques that they can do at home without buying a bazillion dollars worth of expensive equipment? That was kind of my mission. How can I open this door for people who don't have access to the real jewelry experience? And I put real in air quotes. I'm afraid to move my hands now, Tammy. I
don't know, it brings a lot of color. I love it.
I know, right? That was my passion, and remains my passion. And I just have absolutely no patience for people who take this kind of elitist, snobby, exclusionary attitude. Am I ever going to be a bench jeweler? Nope. That is never going to happen in my lifetime, and I don't pretend to be.
Nope.
I do not pretend to be. Am I ever going to be a fine jeweler working for one of, nope, that's never, absolutely never going to happen. Can I help students produce good work and get them started so that they can go off and take, yep, 100%.
Yep.
100%. And so that's my passion. That's my passion and my excitement and my, because I'll do it until noon on the day of my funeral if God lets me.
Mm-hmm.
I'll do it till the day I drop.
I'm coming. Just let me help one more person.
Exactly. Right.
I'm on my way.
10 minutes. 10 minutes. I'm almost done. Retire. Somebody said to me, when are you going to retire? I'm like, retire? Are you kidding? This is the best job I've ever had. I'm never retiring.
Yeah.
I'm never retiring.
And with that, in some of the prep we went through, you mentioned how like you're really taking this very seriously now. Like, oh my gosh, like I actually have employees and I have to pay, I have to pay my taxes. I have to wow.
I sort of joke that I fell into this by accident, but it's not. One of the questions you said, I'd like to talk about what advice you have for business owners. Do not do it the way I did it. That's my advice. Don't be like me is my advice. They're seriously, if you're thinking about getting into business and turning this into a business and it's not just a hobby, I'm not kidding. Do not cheap out on professional help. Go get yourself an attorney to draw up actual real business documents. There's a lot of liability involved in this. Mm-hmm. You're talking about making things that people are going to put on their body. It's a very deeply intimate thing. I'm talking about teaching people with, flames and equipment that can be dangerous and all, right? You have to think about how you're going to structure your business so that you are protected and your students are protected and your customers are protected. So get an attorney and have them, I did it on LegalZoom, probably not the best, nothing against LegalZoom, but I probably could have used a little bit more advice on the front end about, DBAs and other things that I kind of waffled through on my own. So hire an attorney to draw up some actual real business documents for you. Talk to an accountant before you do the first thing, because once you start down a path with the IRS, that's the path you're on. Changing it becomes a massive deal. And I made some decisions early on that, I'm stuck with them now, and that's okay. We'll make it work. But I could have made things a little easier on myself if I'd made some different choices early on. So I would say my number one advice is to get professional advice in the areas you are not yourself an expert in. And that requires a certain amount of self-reflection. Yes, you can read Google, but it's not the same thing. Sorry, honey, it's not the same thing. So, spend the money. Don't cheap out on getting expert help. And then decide, what you want to do. I literally woke up one day and was in business partnership with two women running a studio. And that lasted 2 years. And the breakup was unpleasant because there were some things I didn't think about going into it that, I have not paid. This is how crappy a business person. I have not paid myself in the 10 years I've been running a studio. I have not paid myself a regular salary ever. And that's not sustainable. I'm assuming most people get into business because they'd like to earn a living.
A little bit.
I'm very fortunate in that my husband's retirement, we're on a fixed income, and I wouldn't say we're not obviously not wealthy, but we have a roof over our head and food on our table. And so our subsistence is not dependent on what I do here. I'm very fortunate, right? If that had been the case, we'd have been in trouble a long time ago. So, I just hired an assistant who quit a job that she had had for 6 or 7 years, right? A job that she really liked. She quit that job to come and work for me. And so now all of a sudden, I've got to do payroll and I got to do payroll taxes, but I have to do that more than just this week. I have to do this now long term. I now have an obligation. She's given up a chunk of her life to come here. We're assuming this is for the long term. So I'd better have a plan. So that's been a little bit of a wake up call. We're in a new studio space. I have a much larger nut now, monthly nut than I had in our old spot. I had better come up with a plan. So a business plan is a good idea, friends. I know it seems like, it's a pain. Nobody wants to sit down and do the work, but it's good to have. If you want
to take it for real, it's good to have a plan.
If you want to take it for real. And listen, let me say this too. Nothing wrong with doing this as a hobby. One of the things that makes me really sad, and I mean this seriously, I get very sad when I see people feeling like there's only value to doing this if they can make money at it. And I understand it because, you know, we're working with precious metals and the stones aren't cheap and the equipment, I really get that. But you know what? You are worth it. If this is a thing that floats your boat and cranks your motor and you're not taking food out of the mouths of your kids to do it, you can spend your money however you want to. Do not feel like you have to monetize this to make it legitimate. And so, you know, that makes me sad. I feel like that puts a kind of a pressure on people's creativity that isn't conducive to actual creativity. Like it actually removes
it.
It suppresses it. And so don't rush into monetizing it. That if you want my actual advice, don't do it.
Don't do it. Don't give up.
You're thinking about getting into business. Don't do it. That's my advice to you. Because here's what happens. And, you know, in our Heart of the Maker program, we have had several women now go through the program who this is in fact how they support themselves is making jewelry. And so there's always this tension between what's going to sell versus what's this thing I really want to make. And I'm not saying that that's a tension, you know, that can't be resolved. It can be resolved and people do resolve it all the time. But if you're going to make this a way in which you earn a living, you're going to have to make compromises. You don't get to just make the things that please you. You have to make the things that please other people. That's a whole other conversation, right? How you get there. But so if you're thinking about getting into business, recognize that it's a great privilege to be in a creative business, but there are trade-offs. There are trade-offs.
And you find that the creative time is less and less and less because the business really requires a lot of your attention. And when you're doing a show and you need to think about your packaging and your setup, and it's the weather just changed, and there's insurance, and there like all of these other things that require your 100%. Focus, and you can't just halfway it. You just can't.
You cannot. Am I allowed
liability?
Yeah, the liability is. And I don't just mean legal liability. I mean the liability to your business to do it, right? Your reputation is everything. So are you going all in and doing it with excellence? You know, everything from your accounting to payroll to marketing to keeping up with social media to, you know, the whole long list of things that go into being a business owner. Really seriously think about whether it's something you want to do. You know, and I don't mean that to be a Debbie Downer or to discourage people. If you're really feeling called to turning this into a business, you know, it's going to take you a minimum of 2 years, 3 years maybe to become profitable. Minimum. That's minimum. You're going to have to work a lot of shows. If selling jewelry is the thing you're going to do, you're going to have to work a lot of shows. You're going to get a lot of rejection. You're going to make a lot of pieces that don't sell. You're going to make a lot of pieces you don't want to make anymore because they're the ones that do sell. You've got a tray full of stones you'd love to work with, and you've got to make those 30 pairs of earrings that everybody loves to buy from you at the show because that's coming up next week, and you don't get to sit. You're right. It's this. There's all of these.
You're always serving somebody and making sacrifice. Mm-hmm.
And so, figuring out how to put your own creative needs in that mix and making sure that you've got time for that can be very challenging. And again, I don't mean it is. It can be very gratifying. It can be very fulfilling. I'm not saying that it can't, but it's work. I think people think you just get up every morning and do whatever you want to, and you get just kind of I float in a gauzy white dress sipping a glass of Chardonnay it's not that at all. I promise you.
It's quite visual.
Not that. It's not, right? Listen, we live in the Instagram era. Everybody's looking at Instagram, right? And everything is soft and fuzzy and beautifully staged, and you know, we're looking out over fields and talking about, you know, our whatever. It's all, and that's all great.
Sure.
It is not reality. No. It is not reality. Reality is the stack of paperwork I have to go through. It's the payroll reports I have to file. I have to figure out why my calculations for sales tax was $100 different than the state's last quarter, because they're going to come after me for that $100, right? That's the reality.
Yeah. And
there's nothing creative or sexy or gauzy or
there's no white flowing gown.
There's no Instagram filter for that, baby.
A great line. There's no Instagram filter for that. That's a great line. Oh my gosh, I love that. To sum that up a little bit, because there really are people out there who are very successful and they are doing a lot of very rewarding,
creative, beautiful stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And as a job, like they are paying their mortgage
As
with their work,
it's
you know.
100% possible, but
Totally.
those people went in with a plan.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, right? Or if they didn't have one, they figured out pretty stinking quick they needed to come up with one,
Yep. They have one now.
right?
Mm-hmm.
They have one now. They figured that out. And
Mm-hmm.
there are, again, I don't want to discourage anybody from doing it, but just know going in, it's work.
It's a
It's
lot of work.
work.
It's a lot of work.
It's work.
And
Yep.
if it's not a lot of work, then you're missing something, and somewhere you're going to get caught.
Right.
Somewhere
100%.
it's going to catch up with you.
100%.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, and so you as a maker, where
Yep.
are you as a maker? Because you are a maker. And I know you just reset your studio and you're like, oh, I can actually
I
make something
did.
now.
Yeah. So, I think what happens as an instructor, my instructor hat is firmly fixed on my head now. I would say probably 90% of the time.
Mm-mm.
And I tend to fall into the trap of thinking, how could I teach somebody else to do this thing that I'm doing? I'm trying to give myself permission. And I think that this is part and parcel of living what I call an integrated life, meaning that this is my life. People talk about, what's your hobby and what do you do in your spare time? And this is it. This is my life. This is, and I'm okay with that. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying that the concept of leaving work at work and this is my life. So I'm trying to, I have recently recognized that I have not given myself enough space in my own life to do the things that are important to me personally in terms of making, that it's okay for me to make things that I have absolutely no intention of teaching to other people. I'm giving myself permission to pursue that. And so in 2022, I took a 6-month series with Loretta Lamb. Do you know Loretta Lamb?
I do. Mm-hmm.
She literally wrote a book on design, and I think I'm going to mangle the title, but I think it's Designing Contemporary Art Jewelry is I think the title. She's a polymer artist. She's been in the business a long time. She's got a BFA. I think it's a BFA. She's legit in all of the ways that I am not. And I had the great good fortune of landing almost sort of by accident on an email list where I wound up being part of a 6-month design intensive that she did with a group of women that I just completely fell in love with. Where you talk about kind of connecting with people, and it was great. And I wasn't in charge of anything. I didn't have to teach anybody anything. I was able to kind of soak it all up and kind of explore what was important to me. And I felt like I was really on a trajectory there when our studio fire happened. We had a studio fire in March of 23 that kind of derailed us temporarily. Thank goodness. We are in a new location and kind of back to work, which is good. And so I'm sort of in that place where I was a year ago, sort of looking ahead. What do I want to do next? And so I feel like I'm, drilling down into some of the things that interest me in terms of making, and I want to do more of those things. And I am really giving myself permission. I'm taking a couple of classes with Tanya Davidson this year. She's, boy, you want to talk about a force of nature. She is something else. She knows everything. And so I'm taking a couple of classes with her this year, and I'm hoping to be able to connect with Loretta and a design program that she's doing maybe in the fall. We'll see how that works out. And so I'm kind of giving myself, this is a long answer to your question, and I'm sorry I'm rambling, but I think the answer is I don't really know where I'm at as a maker right now. I feel like I'm on the cusp of a new season of making for myself, a growth spurt, if you will. And as anybody who's had kids knows, growth spurts can be painful. That can be sometimes a painful process, but it's almost always good on the other side of it. So just kind of going through that and giving myself permission to just be in that place and not feel like I've got to rush through it.
That's wonderful.
And that's maybe for the first time as a maker, maybe like for the first time ever.
Yeah. And I was going to say, like, I feel in life, that's a gift in itself. Being patient enough with yourself to know that it's not going to be easy, and I'm just going to stay the course, stay on the ride, and just work it through without trying to rush it, without trying to change it, without trying to
gloss it over.
Yeah, like and corral it a little bit. Like we have this vision and we try to make things shift one way or another based on what we think it should be. Like it sounds like you're ready to just let it be whatever it's going to be, and you're just going to take it as it comes.
I think I have reached that point in my life, and I think I think the fire had a lot to do with this in a way. It burned away a lot of the sort of the non-essential stuff, literally and figuratively. We really had to make a decision about whether we even wanted to do this anymore. My husband is a painter, and we share the studio space. He does not teach. I think he's enormously talented. Did we want to have a studio? Did we want to continue to create space for other people? Did we want to just go off and do our own thing? What did we want this to be? And so I feel like I have a pretty good handle on, I feel like we made the right choices coming out of that, but it was absolutely clear to both of us that more time for me to make has got to be part of the equation. To be part of the equation.
Good.
So now it's just a matter of sort of figuring out the practical aspects of that. How do you manage your time, so that that's a priority, so that you can make that a priority. And well, I think it starts with giving yourself permission.
I agree.
There's this thing we do, right, where it's like, well, you are worth it. If for anybody listening, if you are excited and eager to dip your feet in the world of jewelry making or whatever it is, crocheting or whatever, you don't have to justify that. It doesn't have to be monetized to be worth it. You can do it because you love it. Full stop.
And I think for me, that's part of where knitting really ramped up for me during COVID. My job shifted, life shifted, everything was upside down. And it's like I needed some grounding, and I needed to do something that satisfied my need to create, but it wasn't about selling it because nobody knew really what was going to happen. And so I just knit, and I got so into my knitting for a few years, and it was so wonderful. And of course, then, life comes back, and you get back to the busy, and the knitting is piles of projects over in the corner over there.
Well, but when did we, so this is just, we didn't talk about this beforehand, but when did we decide that busy was a virtue?
I don't know. I hate that word comes out of my mouth.
I reject that. Absolutely. Busy is not a virtue. I feel like we could go down that road, but the bottom line is I feel like busy is a lie. And I feel like social media and the internet age has had a lot to do with that, just sitting and being still is somehow wasteful, or, man, it is essential. Yeah. It's essential to your mental and emotional and physical health. So sit down and knit for 30 minutes if that's what pleases you to do. Do that.
Do it. Tell
your kids, Mom needs 30 minutes. Go bug Dad. Or Mom needs 30 minutes. Go read a book. So I don't know. It's busy is not a virtue.
No. And I appreciate that. And I think it took me to get to this point in my life, this season in my life, where I realized that's not even, it doesn't mean anything. That's actually a bad reflection on my ability to manage my time. So
okay, but don't look at that. Don't do that to yourself either, though. Right? I'm busy because I suck. No, we're not going to go down that road. We're not going to go down that road either. That's a lie too. That's a lie also. So don't do that to yourself. But I do feel like, I don't know. I'll say, you don't have to say how old you are, but I turned 62 last year, right? And I feel like somebody said, well, you're entering your crone stage, and that's not an insult, right? No. That's that wisdom. I've earned some cred by virtue of the fact I survived this long. I've learned from my mistakes, some things I screwed up badly in my life. I can make that available, that information, that education, that wisdom available to anybody who wants it. I'm happy to share. My life is an open book. Happy to share those things. And so I feel like sort of there's a freedom that comes from entering into that stage of life, right, where I just kind of don't care anymore.
Yeah.
What other people think. I'm really reaching that point where other people's validation means less and less and less to me.
Yeah, good.
Because I've learned that at the end of the day, that's empty. That's not the point. You wind up busy and striving and exhausted and never satisfied and always looking to the next thing. And it's too much. It's too much. How did we get on that subject, Tammy? Dag.
Oh,
wow. What?
But
Okay, let's lighten this up.
But I do think it's important. And for people who are listening, like they're probably younger than us. So they're probably like,
Probably. Call me.
yeah, call me. But I do think it's important. I have talked with people who are a few years younger than me, and I'm like, no, you're ready. Like, stop worrying about what they
100%.
think. It is so not important. You have to think
100%.
about what is right for you and just keep moving and stop
Right.
listening and just do
Right.
what you know is right for you. And it's
Right.
okay.
I think people are afraid to fail. I think people are afraid to make mistakes.
That
Right?
I will raise my hand. I'm still in that camp. I'm still in that camp.
Okay. So here's the thing. Here's the most freeing thing I learned in the last 10 years as an educator, right? If I have a student who comes into class and she's never done this thing I'm about to show her at all, and she gets it right the first time out of the gate, she has not learned one thing. She has not learned one thing. She got lucky is what happened. She got lucky. The stars aligned, the angels sang. She's going to go home and it's going to she's going to be unable to replicate that experience. And she's going to think there's something wrong with her. And so when I talk to my students, I tell them, let's all hope things go sideways today while we're here, while we can all learn from each other. You are going to learn more from the things you screw up than you will ever learn from the things you get right the first time.
Mm-hmm.
Full stop. You are never going to learn as much from the things you succeed at the first time as you are from the things you screwed up repeatedly until you figured out why you were screwing it up.
Yep.
And there's something very freeing in that. Whatever, I'll use a simple, I melted a bezel. Okay, there's a couple of reasons right off the top of my head why you would melt a bezel. Whatever. Let's take a look at your setup. Let's take a look at your torch. Let's take a look at what was your process? How did you do this? And let's unpack. Oh, okay, here's why you melted that bezel. Okay, now you know how not to melt a bezel that way. Again,
right.
Now you can try. Now, next time you melt a bezel, you're like, well, I didn't do that thing.
So it must be.
It must be, right? It's a kind of, I don't know, detective work. It's a kind of evaluative. I don't know. It cranks my motor hard. I just love that stuff.
Yeah.
So giving yourself freedom to screw it up, sometimes royally. And I don't mean the kind of screw ups where people get hurt or.
No, of course.
I don't mean screw ups like, you've invested all your family's money in this venture and it goes sideways in 4 weeks and you're all out on the street. That's not what I'm talking about. But learning new things, you have got to assume there's stuff you don't know. There's stuff you're going to do badly. It takes time to build skills. So I love it when people fail. That may sound counterintuitive, but it's an opportunity to learn something. Sure. And not just for them, for all of us.
Yeah.
Have you ever been in a class where a student has done something and you've gone, wow, I never thought of that. I've never seen it done that way.
Yep.
That learning is constant.
Well,
I feel like I'm just
ways, even as an instructor. Right. No, but you're spot on. And there's so much value in that interpersonal relationship, which is why I think it's so important for people to remember, like, get back out there, spend time with each other, because you learn so much from being together, no matter what it is. And if you're learning something while you're together, you're going to learn that many more things in that 100%. Session. 100%. And you can learn
Hive mind.
Hive mind.
You absolutely can learn virtually. There's something about being in person that's special. That it's different, and I think we've gotten better at creating. I don't mean we the makery, but I mean we as a culture have gotten better at creating virtual experiences that more closely approximate what it's like to actually be together.
Yeah.
But there's no substitute for sitting down with people. Breaking bread, sharing stories, cooking for one another. That's one of my favorite things.
Yeah.
And brainstorming through an idea. Right before we did this, I just finished up a 2-hour session. We're tweaking the Heart of the Maker program a little bit, and to sit down and be able to talk through those ideas with Jess, and, who's deeply committed to student success and deeply passionate about the stuff we're teaching and the things we're exploring, to be able to bounce those ideas off one another. And man, there just is that in itself is so fulfilling and gratifying. So yeah, let's do more of that.
Let's do more of that. And so can you share more about the program? You had mentioned earlier that it's like your participants are people who have like the basic fundamental skills. And now it's about taking those skills that are in your toolbox and using them.
I think people don't even know what tools they have in their toolbox, truthfully. Okay. I think people who have taken, let's say they've gone to, to Beadfest for the last 5 years, and they're, they have a favorite teacher that they take a class with every time they go. And I don't know. And they're making work that looks like the teacher's work. And they don't know how to make work that looks like their work because they don't understand how to. Well, here's what that teacher taught you. That teacher taught you how to make a bezel. That teacher taught you how to sweat solder. That teacher taught you how to fabricate complex hollow forms. That teacher taught whatever it may be. Mm-hmm. And so let's go through a process of taking a look at the skills you actually have. And then let's set you free to apply those to ideas that are your own. Let's figure out how you can get from inspiration to a physical object, and how you can leverage these skills you already have, because I promise you have them, to make a piece that's yours. That's yours. We're not teaching new technical skills. That's not what we're about. Not in this program. That the Hands of the Maker is going to be the piece where we sort of fill in some blanks for people, because I do feel like there are some blanks. So I'll take this little detour. We do not do a great job of talking about finishing work in the project-based instruction world. That is a piece that almost always gets left off because we run out of time. It's the end of the day, and people want to set their stone and go off, and they go off and they do their thing. Mm-hmm. So there are definitely gaps in the project-based education world that I think we could fill in. But by and large, we have found students know more than they think they do. And it's just a matter of helping them to think outside that box. I learned these skills in this box. You can unpack that box and you can take that skill and apply it over here. And that's eye-opening for people.
And it's freeing. It's it gives them some brave, it helps them be brave to explore things that they just didn't really like. Okay, got it.
Yep. And I have to tell you that some of the work people are doing work that is, we had a woman whose dad was killed in a plane crash decades ago, and she'd never completed the process of processing that, if you will. There were, and she made a piece that was an homage to him. That was just, just sort of, that was absolutely uniquely hers, that she pulled skills and techniques out that she'd taken from these other classes and reassembled them into this piece that was deeply personal and very unique and 100% her. And man, that's what I want to do. And, listen, the flip side of that is that some people are just really jazzed. They just want to make pretty things with beautiful stones, and that's okay too. That is a perfectly legitimate, it doesn't all have to be woo-woo, right? Maybe you come to this because I have this gorgeous stone and I don't know how to do it justice. How many times have you heard somebody say that?
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
I've got this whole drawer of stones I'm scared to touch because I just feel like I can't do it justice. And I know because you probably have a drawer. You have a drawer like that, don't you?
I was cleaning up some stuff last night, getting ready to start this new project, and I came across stones that I'd forgotten I had, and I was like, because they're too good. I'm not really ready.
Right?
Yes.
See, stop that. You are. This is the program for that. Like, yeah. I've got this stone and I'm dying to do something that's really going to honor it. And I have no idea where to start. Okay, we can work with that. We'll show you.
And is it in person or is it virtual?
It's virtual. We do two sessions. We do two sessions a year, one in the spring and one in the summer. Virtual. It's 9 weeks, 8 weeks of instruction. There's a break week, sort of towards the end, mostly because I think people really need. It's intense. It's hard work. It's work, and we push people. We push people pretty good. So 8 weeks, and then we do a retreat, a 5-day retreat in the fall here in person. That's a little bit different because 5 days you can only accomplish so much. But yeah.
But 5 days is great. It's better than 2.
5 days is way better than 2, and we just have so much fun. We've only done one of those here in the new space, but it was amazing. It was amazing. Yeah. So 2 virtual sessions a year, and then the retreat in the fall. And you do not have to have taken virtual session to come to the retreat. You can.
Oh, okay.
You can. It's not. There's no. Yeah.
They are separate. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, they're separate. You do have to have solid foundational skills, though. Like, this is not a thing you take because you want to learn how to solder. This is not that.
Yeah. Got it.
This is not that. Yeah.
I love it. It's freeing. It's empowering. It's taking your passion for helping people really to the next level, because you're not just, you're really putting a lot behind it.
Yeah. I mean, it's about meeting each person where they are, right? I'm not holding them up to any standards of expectation about like my standards. This is where are you at? What are you capable of now? In every single case, without exception, the student is able and ready to do more than they think they can. And that's always exciting. They're scared. It's scary, right? They're pushing an envelope for themselves. It's like teaching brand new beginners how to solder. You watch that light bulb go on and they're like, man, I did it. I did it. Yeah, that's pretty awesome. I'm getting goosebumps. Awesome. That's right there is the whole thing for me. That's it. I'm standing on the sidelines. Yes, you did it.
Yeah. Well, because that is really such a big piece. And I know, we talked back at the beginning of this where we started out in beading or wire, where there was no heat, there was no torch, there was no fire, there was nothing really scary. Like the scariest thing was, am I going to be able to thread this needle today, or is that going to take me an hour? Yeah. And there went all my free time.
Right? Why is this thread tangling for the 37th time?
I've got to cut it. And the kids I've got to go to bed. I've got to get up for work. So, now you're pushing the fun. We always thought of it as a funnel at the magazine. Like, you have people who are interested in making jewelry, and then you've got this one funnel that goes off for beading and one for wire, and then a smaller funnel that typically went off to jewelry, and then they would go more to the lapidary journal life. It's a smaller group of people, but they're the ones that are really wanting to have that tangible, I want to work in metal, I want to play with fire, I really want to push myself really hard, and I do want to fail, and I do want to learn, like that's
right. Yeah, I want to be careful because I don't want anybody to feel like there's some standard. Right? Are you familiar with, what I'm thinking about at this moment are like artist statements. Have you ever read artist statements that just kind of make you go,
wow.
Okay. Like, wow, that's a lot. There's a website called Artsy Bollocks, which you should absolutely go check this out sometime. It's an automatic artist statement generator, and it is hysterical. It's pretty funny. So I feel like for a lot of people in the hobbyist community kind of coming up through these project-based educational opportunities, they're intimidated by the idea of going deeper. They feel like there's I can't write an artist statement. Great, you don't have to. It is not a requirement. You do not have to write an artist statement.
There's nobody checking you out the door.
There is no deep, I'm not interested in making pieces that talk about childhood trauma. Excellent. Then don't make pieces that talk about childhood trauma. You can make pieces just because you like making pretty things. We'll show you how to make things pretty. We'll talk to you about design and and, the elements of art and how to evaluate the things that inspire you so you can figure out, man, that's why I love that thing. That's the thing about that painting that floats my boat. I can make jewelry that creates that feeling. I like making pretty things is 100% valid and legitimate. Doesn't have to be any more than that. 100% does not have to be any more than that. You have permission to just go make pretty things.
Yeah, that's great. Because it is intimidating. And I mean, this is not my therapy session, but
Let's go. Go ahead. Tell me more about it, Tammy. It's all therapy. I warned you I might cry today. Go ahead.
Well, because I don't even have a college degree.
I don't know.
And
girl, I dropped out of high school.
Oh, okay. So there you okay. And, when I started at the magazine, it was really intimidating. And then when I interviewed to be an editor, it was really intimidating. And,
right.
I had just enough people see something, Merle White. I was like, I get emotional when I see her. It's like, yeah. I'm like, she saw something and she's like, together we can do anything. So let's just do it. And so she changed my entire life trajectory. Like she just, and
she's the first person to publish my work. She right? First time I was ever published was in Lapidary Journal. That's a thing.
Yeah. It is. Yeah. That's wonderful. And that's Merle.
That's
she
Merle.
sees things. Yep. She sees things. She believes in people. And she is highly educated, she's one of those brilliant people in my world. And it was very intimidating. And then I'm starting to I remember my first snag conference and there's this thing called a pin swap. And I didn't really make jewelry. I just started making jewelry, legitimate.
See, that's why I don't go. That's why I don't go to those things, because I'd be like, nah, my pin would suck. I can't make a pin, so that I won't go.
Yeah. Right. And I'm like, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. And then I did it. I'm like, wait, I really do want to do this. And I made these little tiny Byzantine chain segments, and some people love them. So then there's one artist.
There's one artist I won't name. Go ahead. You won't name it, but go ahead and say.
Oh my gosh.
Dismissive, were they?
No, he was very, he said yes before he saw what I was giving. So he gave me his, and then I was like, "You're smart." He's like, "Oh, yeah, that's why I don't come to these things anymore." So it's like I've always had this thing, like I'm a hack. Like I just go through life. I'm just like I do this, and it's I love that. Like I said, this is not a therapy session, but it is wonderful to meet somebody who has a similar come from, where it's like you can come into this wherever you are and you can make things, and it can just be something beautiful, and it doesn't have to be, I've had an instructor one time say like, oh, the Smithsonian called, they're not accepting any new pieces today, so you're good, you're off the hook, just have fun today.
That's so funny. I tell people, this is not the piece you make today is not the piece you're submitting to the Smithsonian. So just let yourself it's not your masterpiece, not the one.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Your mom
and I feel like
it on the fridge, but that's okay too.
That's exactly right. Exactly right. The only person who's going to see that mistake is you. Everybody else is going to go, look what you made.
Right.
Because, right, that's the thing. And I feel like, listen, the truth of the matter is I am deeply jealous of the people who discovered when they were 20 that this is what they wanted to do, and they were able to get into a program, and they have spent their whole, I'm jealous. I wish I had known. There is no way to rewind that. I remember, so I'm gonna name drop. I'm deeply fortunate that Charles Luton Brain is somebody who's in my life. I consider him a friend. Certainly, I find him inspiring. He's taught for us several times. I just think he's a lovely, lovely man. And when he first came to teach for me in 2015, again, another one of those deeply, wildly generous instructors. Like, just he's so generous. And he was sharing a story about, his early days. And as he was sharing the story, he was dressing all my hammers because he said my hammers were disgraceful and they all needed to be dressed. So he's dressing all my hammers, and we're having this deep conversation. And I started to get emotional because, I didn't start doing this until I was in my mid to late 40s. I mean, I came to this late. And it's just a reality of the passage of time. I will never be able to invest 40 years into, there's just not enough time left in my life to be that person.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's telling me this story and I'm finding myself getting very emotional, and he looks over at me and he says, what is it? And I said, I just love all of this so much. And I'm just so sad that I'm not going to live long enough to be a master at any of it. I'm never going to live long enough to be a master at any of it. And instead of saying, right, oh, they're there. No, no, you can. He stopped what he was doing, put his hands on my shoulders, and he said, you're right, but you can get very good at a couple of things. And I thought that was so encouraging, right?
Yeah.
We have to face reality, right? I'm never going to be that person who had 45 years in the business and whatever. It's just not going to ever be my story. But there can be a place for me and people like me.
Mm-hmm.
And I can do very good work. I probably am not ever going to be a master at anything, although I'm pretty good at Kimbu because it's a thing I love. But that was a joke. I'm not going to be a master at any of it, but I'm a really good technician, and I can help other people be really good technicians and find a form of creative expression. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Nope.
There's nothing that's good enough. That is good enough.
Yep. And I feel that I can have that similar statement in that I will never be a master at anything because I've never focused on any one thing. It's never been my background. It's never been my profession.
Except that you've been in the business 35 years or something at this point.
Almost 30. Yeah, almost 30.
A long time, right? So
a long time.
There's an element of that. I would say you're a master at the education piece of it, right? Yeah. The content side of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that part I can say I'm very good at. Yeah.
There you go. So, right, that comes from experience.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, and Charles is such a generous soul. If it makes you feel any better, he dressed the hammers at Revere Academy too when I was there.
Oh, that's hysterical.
Oh, Lord. If that helps you feel any better.
That's just too funny. That's so funny. He's just literally nothing is. I just find him so dear. He's just one of my favorite people.
He's such a kind, gentle man. Yes.
And he knows all the things. He knows absolutely all the things.
Yeah. He has so much in his brain that is still not something he's been able to share. And he has shared and shared and shared and written.
Yeah. I will take this opportunity. Brainpress.com. Go check it out. Like hundreds and hundreds of free articles about all the things. I mean, seriously, just the most generous. He's just one of the most generous people I know.
And he's talented and he's a master.
Yeah, he's not bad. No, I'm kidding.
He still has time to get good.
He's got time to get good at a few things. He's got time to get good
at We're saying this like he's going to listen. Charles, if you're listening.
He will not. He will. If he. Charles, I'm deeply fond of you. Anyway, let's hope he never hears that.
Oh, funny. No, he's very gracious.
So I would say that there are some people, I don't know. We didn't talking about this, but am I allowed to give a shout out to some people that I think are really worth studying with? Like Charles, obviously, Loretta Lamb. Man, if you are interested in like digging deep in design, she does this thing. It's 6 months. It's hard work. It's a weekend a month for 6 months, and there's homework, and you're digging deep. I cannot recommend it enough. So good. Loretta Finn Lamb. You can find her on Instagram. Absolutely check her out. We mentioned Tanya Davidson.
Oh, yes.
Oh, my gosh. She's doing a series of online classes this year that you just should not miss them. Now, they are not for beginners, I would say. Most of the stuff that she's dealing with is advanced at least intermediate to advanced subject matter. But it's things like, working with, I just signed up for her Art of Affordable Gold class for the second time. For the second time, because I took it last year and couldn't. There's just so much content. If you're looking for information on reticulation and granulation, I don't know of anybody who's teaching that teaches it as well as she does. And I've taken a lot of classes with people teaching that. She's hands down, that was the best. So Tanya Davidson, TanyaDavidson.com. Go check that out. And then, of course, I got to give a shout out to my friend Jess Cote, Rosie Revolver, whom I just absolutely adore. She and Richard Sally, also good, also recently started offering online instruction. So, rsally.com, I think is his website. Jess is Rosie Revolver. If you have been hanging around the metalsmithing community at all, you know who she is. She's remarkable. And I just have to say that, Jess and Richard are the reason they are responsible for the fact that I am a metalsmith today, because I was this close to giving up. This is a story about how not every instructor is for every student, okay? And what I would say is that if you are taking a class and it isn't working for you, maybe it's not you, right? I think we all have a tendency to feel like, man, I suck at this. I'm never going to be good enough. So I had 2 instructors early on in my journey who were it was just not a good fit. And I was caught up in that whole mental thing about, maybe clearly it's me. I suck at metalsmithing. I'm never going to be as good as Connie Fox. I'm never going to be able to make these things that I'm passionate about. And I took this class with Richard and Jess and literally said to my husband, this is it. I'm not spending any more money on this. If I can't learn something in this class, I'm going to give it up. I'm just not going to, I'm going to move on to something else. And Jess saw something in me. She saw something in my frustration. Like she dug right into the heart of it. She said, you just haven't been taught the right thing yet. Here, let me show you. And I went from not being able to solder 2 pieces of metal together. In the course of 3 days, I not only soldered 2 pieces of metal together, I set 2 stones. I did a tube setting. It was literally like the skies opened and the angels sang, and I was just beside myself with the possibilities. So part of what I say to my students all the time, take as many classes as possible from as many different teachers as possible, because you're going to learn all these different wonderful things. They all come at it from a different perspective. They've all built up tips and tricks over the course of the years. And you'll be able to pull from those experiences the things that work for you. So yeah, put Jess and Richard Sally at the top of that list for sure. They were formative for me early on. And Jess is, she calls me her art mama, and she's kind of my art daughter. Just, how you just meet people and you just are family instantly. She's one of those people in my life. So highly, highly, highly recommended. RosieRevolver.com. Definitely check her out.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And you have to introduce Jess to me, because I don't know that we've crossed paths before, so we'll have to meet.
I would love to introduce you to her. She's just truly one of the most soulful artists I know out there. Her work is so beautiful and always so heartfelt. There's a lot going on behind the eyes, as they say. Her heart is so into it. And it's part of the reason that I love co-teaching The Heart of the Maker with her, because we are radically different. I'm very much a technician. She is very much an artist. And so I think it's one of the reasons that she and I really work well together on this program, because we bring kind of a different ethos to it, if you will. That blends really well together. I just have such high regard for her as a human being and as an artist. You've got seriously, rush right out. Do not wait. Check her out. Her work is amazing.
Well, and the Makery, I feel like you bring in guests there that are really notable, and you yourself have your programs, and
thank you,
Jess. Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, I just feel like it's about making a place for people who want to learn more. And I don't ever want anybody to feel intimidated walking in here. Just brand new people, you are welcome here. And can I give a shout out to my online student group?
Of course.
So I have an online student group. We just switched over to a subscription model, but it's only $15 a month. So that's like what, 2 Starbucks? And we do a complete project a month. We do work-alongs from my bench. So you guys get to I flip on the cameras and we just talk while I'm working, and I show you actually literally what I'm working on. I do an office hours every month for my subscribers. So if they're having problems, it doesn't even have to be the project we worked on that month. It can be whatever they're working on. I'm doing a bonus session this month because we have some people who are really intimidated by the Smith-Little torch. So we're going to talk about, the Smith-Little torch. So, it's that kind of hive mind idea. Let's get a lot of people in the room. I'll show them as much as I am able to show them. And I'm the first person to say, hey, this is proof of concept. I can show you what little bit I know. But if you really want to study this, you need to go, whoever the person is that is the expert of my acquaintance on that subject matter. So $15 a month gets you all that. Everything's recorded. You can go back and watch the last 4 years worth of content that we did in our other student group. And you can get to that information on our website, which I think you're going to link.
Yep, I'll link everything.
So that's kind of my, I would say, teaching is my passion. And I would say that the group is kind of where my focus is right now, and building that, making sure that there's plenty of opportunity for people. Listen, the economy kind of stinks right now, and I think people are a little nervous. We're in an election year. Whatever. Let's create a place where you can come and be creative, no matter what happens. It's a safe space. There.
It's community. Yep.
Safe space is one of those things that I don't talk about politics or religion publicly just because I feel like they tend to be divisive. I'm all about challenging people. I don't think safe spaces are necessarily a smart intellectual exercise, but I do feel like when I say safe space, what I mean is you can ask questions without being ridiculed or made to feel stupid for asking them. Every single person who's making you feel stupid today in that Facebook group was a beginner themselves one day and didn't know this. So when I say safe space, that's what I mean. I may challenge you. I hope I challenge you. I hope I push you. I hope I get you to look at your work and yourself differently. I'm stunned at the number of people who come into this group and feel less than, and my goal is always to make people feel worthy and valued. It makes me deeply sad, for women especially. Yeah, the number of them who show up feeling less than is heartbreaking.
Yeah.
So I am very much conscious that I feel like part of my purpose is to help women feel like themselves and like they're worthy and good enough. Yeah, I'm pretty passionate about that too.
Yeah. Very touching too. Very emotional. That hit me at my heart.
I'm excited for you to see what's coming up for you. This is kind of a...
Thank you.
Am I correct that you are sort of untethered from any big organization at the moment?
That is correct.
It's just you.
Just me.
So that's a big step, right?
Huge.
You've got this.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm figuring it out. I have to try things and see what feels right. And the education
100%.
And the content side is really where I feel I have value for, because there's you doing this and Tanya doing that. And it's like, I don't need to be layering in. I think I would come in at a different level with education.
Here's the thing about, I really do feel like comparison is the thief of joy. Well, if that's what you're called to do, go do it. Go do the thing.
I'll find this the right place. Because that's who I am. That's what I do.
I just believe that the more people, I don't believe it's a zero-sum game. I don't believe it. I think that this is a case of where 1 + 1 = 3, right? Math goes out the window. I think the more people you put in the room, the more room you make around the table, the bigger the table gets. I just believe that. So don't stand off to the side. Come on, pull up a chair.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Well, Francesca, thank you. And thank you for joining us. Thank you all for tuning in. It's such a pleasure for me to meet people like Francesca along my maker journey. And I hope you have some takeaways. I know I have many from all that Francesca shared with us today. Be sure to follow Francesca on social media. I'll have links and all of the information that she shared so that you can find her very easily. The Maker is a magical place. Definitely look into all that she and Jess have going on. That's a wrap on another episode of Heart and Hands of a Maker. It's been so wonderful sharing this time with you. Thank you for tuning in. And if you want more, be sure to head over to tamarahahnemann.com/podcast for today's show notes and links to make it easy for you to find Francesca. be sure you never miss an episode. Follow Heart and Hands of a Maker on your favorite podcast platform.